live series of the UN Toolkit on synthetic drugs. My name is Stephanie Schmatz, and I work as an Associate Drug Control and Crime Prevention Officer with the UNODC Laboratory and Scientific Service. We are pleased to welcome you to this session within the Ask the Expert Live online consultation series, and this time on cybercrime, featured by our partner, the UNODC Cybercrime and Anti-Money Laundering section. The Ask the Expert Live series provides a unique opportunity for all Toolkit users from around the world to directly consult with substantive experts from across the UN system, and today with our colleagues from the Cybercrime and Anti-Money Laundering section, and also to get real-time answers to technical questions. And through this activity, we are empowering our users to maximize the utility of the practical resources that are referenced within the toolkit. I would like to take the opportunity to thank all participants for joining today's session, as well as our guest experts, Mr. Himal, Ojha, and Mr. Oleksiy, Feshchenko. Before I turn it over to the subject matter experts of today's session, I will start with a brief introduction of the toolkit. Synthetic drugs and its precursors are posing a global challenge to public health systems, law enforcement operations, criminal justice systems, and also legislative responses to control these substances. This very complex and ever-changing and growing problem as it manifests around the world is challenging global, regional, and also national strategies and responses. So the more important it is to address this complex and evolving issue in an integrated manner. Through two resolutions, the Commission on Narcotic Drugs called on UNODC, WHO, and INCB to take action in enhancing and strengthening international and regional cooperation and domestic efforts to address the international threats posed by the non-medical use of synthetic opioids. And as a response in 2018, the UNODC Opioid Strategy was developed, which is now coordinated by Ms. Asma Fakhri, Program Manager within the UNODC Laboratory and Scientific Service. The UNODC Opioid Strategy provides a framework for action for comprehensive and integrated responses that is built on 5 pillars. The strategy coordinates wide-ranging and integrated efforts to address the challenges posed by the non-medical use of synthetic drugs, and in particular synthetic opioids. And it brings together a wide range of expertise from UNODC and from across the UN system through collaboration with key interagency partners such as the INCB and the WHO to leverage a unique set of complementary activities and programs and their specialized expertise to support countries to build capacity to predict, prevent, and protect against the challenges posed by synthetic drugs, including synthetic opioids. And also recognizing the need for practical ways on how to respond to such a complex issue as a growing synthetic drugs problem and to further support countries with the implementation. The UN Toolkit on synthetic drugs has been developed and set up by WHO in collaboration with WHO and INCB. As you already know, the UN Toolkit is an open source online platform which houses a wide range, currently 290 cross-cutting tools and resources that help countries with the practical implementation of the guidance that is provided in the UNODC Opioid Strategy. And before the UN Toolkit on synthetic drugs was established, there were many different services and resources all addressing the synthetic drugs problem, but they were scattered across multiple UN agencies, which made it very difficult for users to access information about various aspects that are related to synthetic drugs. So imagine you as a member state looking to address various fields challenged by synthetic drugs. You would need to consult numerous organizations and programs to find the necessary information. And you also would know what it is exactly that you're looking for and where to find this piece of information. So, for instance, countries needed to refer to INCB about chemicals used in illicit drug manufacture, or WHO about access to controlled medicines, and UNODC about forensic analysis methods for drug testing. But for countries, all these topics are connected and interlinked and are all part of the same problem, synthetic drugs. And the toolkit on synthetic drugs gathers all those different cross-cutting tools from across the UN system and covers multiple areas of expertise all in one place, in one single platform, and serves, so to say, as a one-stop shop, offering practical tools to help member states to identify solutions. I would now like to show you a brief video that summarizes what I was just presenting and will provide a little bit more detail after. I am now going to briefly walk you through the Toolkit website before I will hand it over to our guest experts. For all participants who don't know the Toolkit on synthetic drugs yet, this is the landing page of the UN Toolkit. And the toolkit was developed with the generous support of US State INL and Canada. And its availability in other languages was supported by the Russian Federation for the Russian version of the toolkit. And OES CCAT collaborated with us on the Spanish version of the toolkit. We also just recently launched the Chinese version of the toolkit thanks to the support of the Forensic Science Institute in Beijing, China. And we will also make the toolkit available in French thanks to the support of Canada by the end of the year, and also currently looking for support on the Arabic version of the toolkit to make it available in all official 6 UN languages. The global synthetic drugs problem is multifaceted and is constantly evolving, and also so is the toolkit. So new areas of responses will be added on a continuous basis, and new modules are already in development, such as prevention, advanced investigative techniques, and air cargo security. The toolkit is divided into different modules, and each module covers a different thematic area that is related to synthetic drugs. And today we will focus on cybercrime, which was developed in collaboration with the Cybercrime and Anti-Money Laundering section. One of the toolkit's features is the Ask an Expert feature, which allows users to send their specific questions to a specialist. You can fill in this form and put your question on a particular topic or area here, and the opioid strategy will direct your question to the subject matter experts. And building on this feature, we are holding the Ask the Expert live consultation series that is bringing this feature to life, so to say, where participants have the opportunity to put their questions directly to the subject matter experts and bring Toolkit users closer to the interagency expertise that is housed within the Toolkit. In case you have missed one of the previous sessions, we also have recordings of the sessions here under the highlights section. Today, we are delighted to host the expert consultation session on cybercrime, and I will now turn it over to our guest experts, Himal and Oleksiy, from the UNODC Cybercrime and Anti-Money Laundering section, who are here with us today to present the Toolkit module on cybercrime. Himal is an Associate Cybercrime Program Officer for the UNODC, for UNODC. Within his roles, he oversees multiple technical assistance projects and delivers capacity building trainings and courses and mentoring support to criminal justice authorities, agencies specializing in prevention, detection, and investigation of cyber-enabled and dependent crime. Oleksiy is an anti-money laundering advisor for the global program against money laundering, proceeds of crime, and the financing of terrorism within the UNODC Cybercrime and Anti-Money Laundering section. Himal and Oleksiy will start with a brief live demo of the module on cybercrime, followed by an open question and answer session. Some of the questions have already been submitted in advance through the Ask the Expert form, but you are invited to post your questions anytime in the chat, and Himal and Oleksiy will answer to them in the following question and answer session. Thank you very much for being with us today, Himal and Oleksiy, and you have the floor.
Sure. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for your wonderful introduction. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to participants joining in globally. I do understand that I have very few limited time, so I would like to get it started with a quick demo straight away. I will now share my screen and turn off my camera. I hope everyone can see my screen. So today I will just give you a basic walkthrough of the new cybercrime module, and I would like to start basically by giving a brief introduction and overview on the first page of the module. So the overview basically looks after, or the toolkit, the module within this toolkit provides information for criminal justice authorities on how cyberspace is being used to traffic synthetic drug, as well as on the right-hand side of the screen, you will be able to see three different segments. The first focusing on how are synthetic drugs marketed and sold online. Second is detection and response. And of course, the last one is laundering proceeds of online trafficking in synthetic drugs. I will now move on to the first segment, which is basically the online trafficking of synthetic drugs. Within this page, you can actually see that there are several sub-segments. I will talk about that in a later stage. But whenever you click the online trafficking of synthetic drugs, it basically provides some facts and figures as to why are organized criminal groups using internet, what are the main reasons, and main reasons on this module being probably greater anonymity, outreach, and easy accessibility. On the ecosystem of online trafficking, we are very much aware that there are several actors, and this module also describes different kind of actors that are present within different modes of operation, whether we're selling synthetic drugs on clearnet marketplaces or darknet marketplaces. At the bottom of the screen, you will be able to access some additional resources, some reports that has been published by UNODC along with other organizations working actively in the space. Now, please allow me to walk you through the segments of the first session. So the first sub-segment comes around online sales platform, and it basically describes how is online sale of synthetic drugs being carried over. So as you can see on the screen, we have classified online platforms into 4 different services. So you can see clearnet marketplaces, darknet, messenger services, and social media. you should be able to see a very detailed description of what a clearnet is, what a darknet is, how are social media being used, as well as different kind of messenger services. The second segment which is covered is basically the payment through cryptocurrencies and how is it used. So criminals operating on darknet marketplaces will not use Visa or MasterCard in order to process their payment, but of course they use cryptocurrencies. So how are actually purchases being made? How did it emerge? What is the feature of a cryptocurrency that criminals are so much appealed or attracted to? And it also describes how does actual cryptocurrency work? What is the current market overview? How can it be downloaded into different cell phones or mobile phones? In addition to that, there is a very interesting and informative video regarding virtual assets. Within the segment, we also have a section which is dedicated to regulation, because cryptocurrencies are also subject to regulations in many countries, while in some other countries it is still in the process of being subjected to regulation and supervision. So over here we have details regarding the supervision and also subject to international standards, which is basically set up by the Financial Action Task Force. Over here, there are different segments on supervision and also different kind of case studies that has not complied with the standards set by authorities. So if you're very much interested in learning about some of the latest cryptocurrency scams that has happened or some of the biggest cases, we have links to these cases over here. Now I would like to go back to the first segment and I would like to cover the detection and response before I pass it over to my colleague Oleksiy to cover the laundering proceeds. So the second main sub-segment is basically detection and response. Now this has been developed in a way keeping in mind that online trafficking is often a transnational crime and involves multiple jurisdictions. So this section actually summarizes some of the techniques that can be used by law enforcement agencies and what are the key strategies or elements that is needed for successful detection and response. The subsegment contains investigations to counter synthetic drugs online, capacity building, and cooperation. Under the investigation subsegment, there we have classified them into 4 different subsegments, and I'll give you a reason shortly. But over here, generally, it talks about several national, regional, and international agencies need to collaborate each other when conducting similar kind of investigations. So as we are very much well aware that drugs can be not only sold on clearnet marketplaces, but also darknet. So the investigations focuses on open source intelligence and social media investigations. Followed by darknet investigations. Of course, the money is always, the payment is done through cryptocurrency, so investigating cryptocurrency is a must. And since everything is done through cyberspace, digital evidence remains a very important topic to be discussed. So I will just quickly briefly open some of these platforms and you would be able to access it. The first one contains more about open source intelligence on how investigators or criminal justice authorities will be able to use open source software to analyze and gather intelligence. We also have a segment where UNODC offers various open source intelligence training to member states, and there are also several tools that you would be able to access by clicking here. The second subsegment works on darknet investigations, which might be a bit of a more technologically challenged, but still we have managed to write down the details that there might be a need for different undercover techniques, as well as sometimes a need for making purchases to infiltrate the marketplaces, along with some of the key points that investigators must be aware regarding the use of virtual private network, cryptocurrency wallet, we're carrying out such investigations. We also have given link to a very big online darknet marketplace that was shut down by the US Department of Justice. And once again, the UNODC capacity building initiatives on darknet and cryptocurrencies investigation. The third one is going to focus on cryptocurrencies investigation and how it should be done. So we are not only talking about tracing, but we are also talking about seizure and confiscation. And I will let Oleksiy in a while discuss a little bit more about the cryptocurrency residential and online courses being offered by UNODC. The last section is basically focusing on digital evidence and how digital evidence by its nature is very fragile. The reason for this to be mentioned over here is sometimes sometimes law enforcement officers tend to find information, but when they return back to the website or any other forums, the evidence is disappeared. So at that moment, we have also provided guidelines on collecting digital evidence, on practical guidelines on how to actually request electronic evidence across borders, along with few digital forensic best practices followed by multiple member states. Now with this, I will quickly go into the cooperation section and understand why is cooperation important. So as I have mentioned before, online trafficking of synthetic drugs using cyberspace is often a very transnational process and requires various types of cooperation from interagency, regional to international, bilateral, and of course a very important thing on public-private partnership, as most of the information is held by private companies. Over here, there are also a few resources on how to approach internet service providers, along with the UNODC Mutual Legal Assistance Writer tools, and of course there are different working groups on international cooperation. With this now, I would like to pass it over to my colleague Oleksiy to explain a little bit of more into detail on the last section, which is the laundering proceeds of online trafficking and synthetic drugs. Over to you, Oleksiy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Himal. Hello, everybody. Just a quick overview. We have last section on laundering proceeds of online drug trafficking. It has two sections. One is about classical money laundering, because still with billions generated by global illegal trade in drugs, you need serious money laundering methods. And all money laundering methods that are available on the market, they are used by drug traffickers. There is some specifics that is related to massive proceeds of cash from retail drug trade. It brings certain specific methods that are related to cash-intensive businesses, cross-border cash smuggling, and of course use of various money transfer systems. But more and more and more, digital technologies are taking over the drug market. We are talking about advertisement. We are talking about marketing channels, which is dark web marketplaces, as well as messengers. We talk about delivery of goods, which is more and more contactless. It's like e-commerce, like eBay, like Amazon, but just for drugs. And also, finally, payments. And payments is done by cryptocurrencies, and cryptocurrency, it can be a tool, but cryptocurrency can be also a fantastic tool to launder money. To counteract all these threats, UNODC offers to member states trainings. Our trainings are highly practical, and it's not an advertisement or empty words. Literally in 3 or 2 days, an average officer can be trained to do real practical investigations. We had this in our record that we were able to solve real cases by our participants during or immediately after the training. So it really works. The trainings done by UNODC, they can be offered either face-to-face, we can do it online, we can do it blended, we can do it for you in your country, we can do it in Vienna, If for some reasons, because of COVID, we cannot travel to your agency, but you can have all participants in one room, we can send you a telepresence robot. Whatever suits your needs, we can adjust training to this format. The training can address law enforcement officers, but we can also train analysts. We can train policymakers, and what is now even more important is the training of supervisors, of financial supervisors, people who oversee the financial markets and markets of cryptocurrency. The reason is, so far, online drug trade is still dominated by Bitcoin, which gives law enforcement good chances to investigate. But a decent part of online drug trade is now done in Monero. Monero is cryptocurrency that is almost, I would say, almost impossible to trace. Yet, there are very simple and elegant ways to address Monero, but it requires cooperation of supervisory agencies. Thank you for attention. I think we still have some time for the questions.
Thank you very much, Himal and Oleksiy, for this excellent and very comprehensive overview of the module, and also to showcase all the practical tools and resources that are housed within the cybercrime module. I would now like to open the floor for questions, and we kindly invite you to post your questions in the chat. And I would also like to start with a question that we already received in advance from the Ask the Expert forum, namely, are illicit drugs commonly sold on the open internet besides the darknet? Oleksiy or Himal, over to you.
Well, maybe let me quickly share the screen. just wait a second. The answer is yes. Surprisingly, yes. Surprisingly, still there are websites that are selling drugs in clear web. Sometimes there are even mirrors of Tor websites. I do not know why, but yes, it's still possible to buy drugs in ClearNet. It's still possible to see people who are selling drugs online in WhatsApp. Sorry, it's old technology, but it's still possible. Like, let me show you a real website. If you can see my screen now, yes, it's one of the clear web mirrors of certain darknet websites that is selling very interesting drugs. Here they are in clear web. Don't ask me why. So the answer is yes, it's possible.
Thank you very much. So the next question would be, what is the difference between the deep web and the darknet, or is it the same thing?
Sure, thank you. I think I would take this one just as I have been receiving questions very much regarding this. So basically, in order to describe the difference, the deep web is the publicly accessible internet that is unknown to search engines such as Google and includes, for instance, encrypted or unindexed websites. Whereas Darknet is part of the World Wide Web, which cannot be accessed using your standard browser such as Google Chrome or Mozilla Firefox or Internet Explorer. It operates inside specialized encrypted networks, and so does it provide greater anonymity. Like the ClearNet, the Darknet also hosts thousands of web pages, as Oleksiy has mentioned, but they are only accessible when connected to a Darknet. Based on the research UNODC report, the most widely traded category of products on the darknet is drugs, and including MDMA, amphetamine, cannabis in all forms, opioids in all forms. The other main thing I would say is the dark web, on the other hand, is designed to prevent tracking, while ClearNet, there are channels that, with proper international cooperation mechanisms, we will be able to get some information out. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Himal. I see there is a hand raised, and I would kindly ask you to post your question in the chat. So the next question from the Ask the Expert form was, what happens to the cryptocurrencies once they are seized by law enforcement officers?
Let me share my screen again to answer this question. Maybe you have seen in the news recently there was a very nice auction done by German authorities, Northern Rhine-Westphalia. They have successfully sold around, if I'm not mistaken, more than 10 bitcoins. So that's what happens. They put them on the auction, and whoever the highest bidder gets them. If you compare, by the way, if you compare the price and the current market price, it's in euros. I must say German colleagues did a great job on selling these coins. In other countries could be different procedures. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Oleksiy. Another question related to cryptocurrencies. Can the sellers and buyers using payments in cryptocurrencies be identified?
Yes, the answer is yes. Of course, not in 100% cases like in any other crimes, but there are methods that allow to reliably identify sellers and buyers. That's the core of our training. That how the major task that we train a law enforcement officer is trace cryptocurrencies and try to identify sellers and buyers. Yes.
Thank you very much, Oleksiy. Next question. How can I build a cybercrime team in my country, and can I get help from UNODC?
I think I can give some inputs on this. Regarding the support from UNODC, yes, we work with member states closely in order to provide technical assistance, legislative support. So please feel free to reach out to us, and then we can take the discussions further from there. Regarding the setup of cybercrime units, we will need law enforcement officers who are specialized in the field of cybercrime, and that should be able to help us get started with a cybercrime unit, along with other technical equipments such as computers, specialized computers, and different forensic softwares. I hope this answers the questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Himal. Another one, is there any training available on investigating cybercrime or cryptocurrencies?
Yes, of course. It's quite, UNODC is running a number of such courses. Yes. For joining the courses, the answer is please contact UNODC. Let's see if either we can add you to the existing group, but the best way is to do a dedicated training for the country, because you need a national team. of people who can investigate crypto, and it includes financial intelligence unit, law enforcement investigators, but also prosecutors and supervisors. The best result is when you have a country team. The country team could be as small as even 6, 8 people. That's okay.
Thank you very much. Another question, is there any support for setting up open source intelligence investigating capability in my country?
I would say that, as Oleksiy has mentioned, our training courses also focus on open source intelligence, and along with cryptocurrencies and darknet, as well as digital evidence investigation. About setting up a open source intelligence, we would be very much happy to provide advice on it, but setting up an actual unit should be based on the local legislation in a country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Himal. Another question from the forum was, if drugs are sold online, how can I know where they are coming from?
It's two answers. First, if you want to know about the real origin or quality of the goods sold online, the answer is you never know. But as any electronic commerce, even illegal, there are systems of reputation and user reviews. Strange, simple, but it works. So you can get inputs from other drug users who can comment on the quality of the product. And sometimes you get interesting information. For the delivery, for the physical delivery, if you can do controlled delivery, then you may be able to trace postal package. And sometimes law enforcement have really very effective operations on tracing the delivery of drugs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Oleksiy. The question on how can we join these courses was already answered. Thank you very much. So the next one would be, is the use of cryptocurrencies legal in all countries?
The answer is in most of the countries, yes. There are very few countries that banned use of cryptocurrency or certain forms of crypto businesses. It's a sovereign right of any country to do it. But if we talk about reliable way to prohibit or totally ban cryptocurrency transactions, the only reliable way is switch off the internet in the country.
Thank you very much, Oleksiy. Can you explain a little bit more about what are controlled deliveries?
Very simple. The most popular way to investigate online drug sales is anonymity works in both ways. Law enforcement do not know who is the organizer, who is the owner of darknet websites and marketplaces. But marketplace operators also do not know who are their clients. So law enforcement pretend to be buyers or sometimes to be sellers of drugs online, which means they can send cryptocurrencies, they can receive cryptocurrency from the users, and they can order drugs online, and they can order drugs online, and they can trace the physical to trace the parcel or try to trace the geocaching delivery of drugs.
Thank you very much. There is another question, and thank you for the highly informative session. When working with member states, relevant police and law enforcement agencies, do you encounter challenges where the areas of cybercrime versus digital forensics seems to be treated as one field area of specialization, as typically it should have separate specialized units? I wonder if you have observed a similar challenge and how to deal with it.
If I may please answer the question. Thank you for your question. It's very interesting. As Oleksiy has mentioned, that the cybercrime and digital forensics seems to be two separate fields, but are widely intertwined with each other. So when we are training law enforcement agencies, as Oleksiy has mentioned before, we welcome cyber investigators as well as digital forensics expert, because in case there has to be a live forensics to be done at the spot, or in case there has to be a triage to be done, then everyone should be aware on what the next step is or how to actually gather the evidence and maintain a chain of custody. This is how we actually work on our trainings when we have to do it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Himal, and thank you very much, Oleksiy. You just wrote that you have to leave for another cryptocurrency training. Thank you so much for joining this session and for sharing your expertise. Thank you very much.
Goodbye.
The next question. Many thanks, Himal and Oleksiy, for your presentations. I'm from Nigeria and work at the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency. Can you organize a virtual training for my team of 5 officers that work in the Data Digital Intelligence Unit?
Thank you for your question. As mentioned previously, we are very much happy to organize trainings. Please feel free to reach out to UNODC, and then we can discuss the further details into organizing a training in Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Himal. Another question, how do you know if the drugs you see online are real drugs?
Sure, thank you so much. It's a very interesting question. I would like to say that these drug marketplaces on Darknet have a very effective feedback system. So yes, you're right, there could be a lot of scams that a marketplace might be set up and then it looks legitimate, but at the end of the day, they will just take in cryptocurrencies and the market is closed. However, whatever we see on these big marketplaces operating on Darknet, there is a very strong feedback and reputation system. So if a drug user buys a drug from that market, there is a feedback rating on if the drug was good, if it was legit. And in that way, we would be able to say that, okay, the market is for real and the drugs are also being dispatched or posted for real. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Himal. Another question, can we freeze digital wallets under investigation?
Sure, thank you. I would like to answer saying if you're meaning addresses that you find, then yes. If an exchange is based in a country and has been properly regulated, in that case, you can send proper legal documents to be able to freeze those addresses under investigation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do you think there should be stricter laws on cryptocurrencies? For example, could cryptocurrencies be regulated by prohibiting online shops to accept it as a payment method?
It's a very interesting and tough question. I don't think I'll be able to answer if there should be stricter laws, but I would suggest that there should be a proper regulation in place in each country so that the exchanges as well as the use of cryptocurrency for illicit products can be controlled. Regarding the payment method, I also think that regulation plays a very important role on whether accepting it as a payment method in a particular country. So I would advise member states to follow the FATF guidelines in implementation of regulation and supervision of cryptocurrencies. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There is another question from Nigeria. Nigeria recently launched a naira payment platform. This is more like electronic money. Does your toolkit cover electronic money transactions?
Thank you for your question. Unfortunately, the toolkit does not cover electronic money transactions. And I would also like to give you a reason why. The reason is because if it has been launched in a particular country, that means it has undergone through a rigorous regulatory framework to be launched. So in that case, there should be proper rules and regulations to launch those electronic money platforms. But cryptocurrencies on the other side are more decentralized and is not controlled by any central bank. So the toolkit only covers the the cryptocurrency investigations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would also kindly invite the chief of the UNODC Cybercrime and Anti-Money Laundering section, Mr. Neil Walsh, also joined the session and would like to add on the question regarding the cryptocurrency laws. Neil, you have the floor.
Thanks, Steffi. Sorry for jumping in at the end. Just to the question on should there be stronger law and regulation on cryptocurrency, I just want to add to what Himal said. Legislating for cryptocurrencies themselves is pretty difficult because when you have something that is essentially anonymous and you don't necessarily know where it's based, that makes enforcing law against it pretty difficult. But where you can certainly regulate is on those places like exchanges where you can buy cryptocurrencies or you can turn cryptocurrencies into cash. That is your best opportunity as a member state to regulate and apply the same know your customer, anti-money laundering and terrorist financing regimes that you apply if I'm buying currency or credit cards or checks or anything like that. So it's not necessarily about making cryptocurrency use illegal. We don't take a view on that. We are technologically neutral. They can be used for good as well as bad. It's about regulating that use and creating an environment where your regulatory authorities actually have the teeth to that regulation to do something about it. So you do that at the exchange level where you can buy and cash out cryptocurrencies. Hope that helps. Thanks, Steffi.
Thank you very much, Neil, for this very comprehensive answer and for chipping in at this very end, unfortunately, of this session. So let me take the chance and thank everybody who participated in this session today. And also special thanks to our guest experts, Himal, Oleksiy, and also Neil, for joining this session and sharing your specialized expertise on this very interesting and very, very important topic. So I will, considering the time, we will close the session now, but I would like to mention there will be another session on Thursday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Vienna time. And I will leave the chat open in case there will be more questions. So our experts, please provide your question together with your email address, and our experts will be happy to answer to your question by email. Again, I would like to cordially thank our participants and the experts for joining us today, and very much looking forward to the next session. The session is also recorded, and we will also shortly upload the recording on our website. Thank you very much.